do you believe that there was a purpose to your paralysis, or that, bad things happen for a reason, for your own growth? There's a lot of schools of thought around that, and you hear a lot of people that do say, this happened for a reason. I'll find my purpose or whatever. So what do you think about that?
I think that's a really interesting question. So I think that people put a lot of meaning in their suffering, and they sort of well, my personal experience is ever since my accident, I once I came to terms with it, I used it as a catalyst to change my life into a different direction. And then I always say that, a lot of people say it as well, that I'm a better person for my accident, and if I could go back in time and not have it happen, I wouldn't do that, because I feel like, yeah, I've grown a lot, and I've given my suffering or my accident or my change of circumstances a lot of meaning, and I do think that I am a better person since my accident. Did I think it happened for a reason? I think I'm more aligned with the thought of it happened. I dealt with it remarkably well, and I'm on a new life path, and I'm very happy with the direction my life's in at the moment, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back, even though if you'd asked me before, hey, do you want to, spend the rest of your life paralyzed? I'd be like, hell no, that sounds awful. And there are lots of things that's not so great about being paralyzed. But yeah, I don't know. Did that answer your question? Maybe it was a bit all over the place.
That did sort of answer my question. I guess I always struggle with this. For myself, I think that that life, there is no meaning. I don't believe that there is meaning to anything in life, and I know that's like a weird opinion, maybe, but I don't think there's meaning in anything. I think we assign meaning to everything, and I think that's why we create our own reality. Because there are two people looking at the exact same picture can see very different things. Sorry, somebody was calling me, even though I put it on Do Not Disturb. So I think that two people looking at the same picture can see two different things based on their past experiences and the meaning they assign to things. And the reason that I don't feel like there's meaning in anything really, or that there's that things are preordained, is just because if there's something horrible that happens, there's no purpose behind a 3-year-old, getting kidnapped or that kind of stuff. So if there's no purpose behind that, then there's no purpose behind me getting paralyzed or somebody dying or whatever. But I do think there is value, so much value, in assigning meaning to things. And I think that when you assign meaning to things, significant changes can occur in your life that create a brighter future and a more fulfilling life. And so that's sort of my thing. But it sort of actually drives me nuts when people think, or not think, I guess they can think whatever they want, but when they say I know this happened for a reason, God has a plan for me, all that stuff. And because then I'm just if maybe I'm just a judgmental person, but I'm I would be more stuck on the why me if there was a preordained, it's you get to be paralyzed, you get to have nothing hard in your life. I think that would make it harder for me to accept if I thought it was preordained by a higher power. I feel like there is no meaning, and if there's a higher power, he helps us find meaning in our pain, and is there to walk beside us through that pain. Not that he's, handpicking people to go through it. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah, I do. I used to feel strongly about that, when people would have strong religious beliefs, but I've softened to it so much. I think that if you have a strong faith, it can give you meaning, and I think all power to you. I think if you say to yourself, oh, it's all part of God's plan, then oh my God, if everything's part of God's plan, what have you got to be worried about? That takes an enormous it gives you such an enormous amount of peace of mind, because you're okay, cool, it's part of God's plan. And I trust God, he's going to do the right thing. So that is powerful. That to drop into a level of acceptance, to be okay, cool, this is all part of God's plan. That's amazing, because trying to figure it out on your own is really tough. To be like, outsource it to the big man in the sky. Be like, nah, he knows what he's doing. That's all good. Like he's got my back. That's powerful, I think. So, yeah, I used to think. I used to maybe think of it more scornfully, like, you're naive, man, it's God's plan, yeah, whatever. But now I think, maybe I don't believe it, but if you believe it and it really helps you, all power to you, man. I think that's pretty cool.
I actually admire, maybe I'm too analytical for religion, and I am a very spiritual person, so I don't want anybody listening to think that I'm not spiritual. I just don't assign an intellectual sort of like constraint to spirituality, because I do feel like if there is a higher intelligence, which I do believe there is, I do believe that there is energy in the world that is intentional, that you can tap into an intentional stream of energy and that it will help you create the life you want. So I do believe in that. But I just don't believe that as a human being, I'm intelligent enough to understand that greater consciousness that exists out there. So I don't try. I just try and tap into its power whenever possible. But religion is just something that I have a really hard time with, because I don't think as human beings we're capable of understanding things that created the world. Like if there's an intelligence that created what we see and experience in this world, we are beyond, comprehension of that power. So I just don't try to, put rules on it and teach it to people and that kind of thing. And so that I struggle with religion a little bit in that way, but I have friends that are very religious, and one of my really good friends, her daughter, is in a wheelchair. She's actually been on my YouTube channel. Her name is Jordan. She has a neuromuscular neurodegenerative disease, and eventually the disease will take her life. And the things that I've learned from that family and from my friend about the power of surrendering to uncertainty and allowing any higher power, whatever you call it, to sort of take the lead and not have to be in control of things that you don't understand or that you can't control, it's insane. I admire her so much. And I wish I had that power, because I really have a hard time with lack of control. And I struggle with that a lot. So for people that can, like you say, outsource that to a higher power, I admire their ability to do it and not overanalyze things.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think there's pros and cons of organized religion. So the way you were speaking, you alluded to the fact that you do believe in a higher power. And a lot of people use different words, because I find the word, even just using the word God, it's already comes like quite a loaded word. Like, what do you mean by God? Which God? Not the brown God, surely. Like, whoa, like there's like this hierarchy of religions, the white God in the sky with the beard, right? No, it doesn't really matter which God, man. Like, we worship whoever you believe in. But yeah, so even just using the word God is sometimes uncomfortable for me, especially. But when you believe in like a higher power, like you say, people sometimes use the word like the universe. Like, I trust in the universe. I got a new job, and the universe blessed me with this job. But some people call it God. And like, God blessed me with this job, and it's kind of like those words are interchangeable. They don't really, they sort of mean the same thing. So I think the pros and cons of religion, the cons being like, my religion's better than yours, for example. And I don't know. And also it's just, I don't know. But I think the pros would be like, if you have a church and a community and you all believe in the same thing, and you come together, and say if something does bad happen, you'd be like, it's all part of God's plan. And you've got like a bunch of people that are saying the same thing, like it's all part of God's plan, everything will be fine. And you'd be like, oh, well, maybe it is. And it's like you've got that sort of backup crew of just like, and you're all on the same page, like literally, like, we're on this page, John 11, But I don't know. I think that like the pros would be to have like a church and a community, and I can definitely see that as something that would be really cool and really powerful, like to drag you through the tough times, and again, like it would be very, very valuable. And I've softened to that so much. I used to be like very anti-organized religion. I'd be like, I believe in my own thing, but like don't, don't put your beliefs on me. But like I say, I think, if you just share beliefs with a community, it can be very powerful.
I think one of the things that I'm so grateful for that has come with age is my willingness to listen to other people's perspectives without having to change them. And I think that is so nice because as a younger person, if I listened to somebody else's perspective and I didn't agree with them, it was my job to change it. Like, it was my job to bring them to my side. And now I'm just like, no, that's really interesting. That's a really interesting perspective. That's so cool. And I have so many friends that have vastly different beliefs politically, spiritually, all kinds of things. And we are so good together because we just accept each other. We don't try and change each other. And we value each other's differing opinions, which I think, was something that I didn't before. It was scary to me to have people with different perspectives. And now I just feel like we all are trying to do the best that we can with the knowledge we have and the life experience, that we've had over our lives. And who am I to say that person's wrong about their political beliefs or their spiritual beliefs? I don't identify with that, but it doesn't mean that I have to change it. And it doesn't mean that I have to spend time judging that person, that has probably been the hardest thing for me to change, is being judgmental. Just because I think we're conditioned to judge other people. And so I think that's the last thing for me to come. That judgment is still there sometimes. The pause where I, don't say anything about the stuff that's whirling around in my head, but that judgment still pops up about myself and others all the time. So yeah, but it's been very refreshing as I've gotten older to just kind of be okay with who I am and who other people are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny you say that because, I say this on the podcast on a public platform, but if someone comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, have you heard of the good Lord?" I'm like, "Fuck off!" Like, I don't need, It's so weird because it grates against me. I have that sort of almost allergic, "Oh no, thanks." Like, I don't want to. I'm all right with my beliefs. I don't, It always kind of often feels that they're sort of like, "Hey, come and join our crew," or I don't know, I don't know, or they seem to know something that you don't, or whatever. And that sort of I know what you mean with that sort of judgmental thing. I could break down your arguments with logic, or something like that. But something I've thought of recently is I keep a gratitude journal every day, and I write down religiously, and I use that word purposefully. I religiously write in my journal every day, and I remember thinking, all I would have to do is every day start with, "Dear God, thank you for, my health, my standing frame, my girlfriend, the weather, my car, whatever I'm grateful for." If I just started with "Dear God," or maybe if I didn't even have a journal and I just "Dear God, thank you for my life. I love it." How different is that? Just because I put "Dear God" in front of it, if I have if prayer is saying thanks to God, then I can attest that being grateful for life every day is bonkers good for your mental health. Really good for having a robust, positive outlook on life. And if you call it God, I think it's how do you pray? Do you be "Thanks, Lord, my life is buff," or "Hey, God, can I get a new car?" Or "I'd really like some more money." I guess it's all to do with yeah. So I definitely have softened as I've gotten older, and definitely since my accident as well, to people's differing beliefs than my own, because I actually find them not too dissimilar to the practices I do. I just don't call it God.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that is one of the things that I try to do just in life in general, but as a person with a disability, is I try to find ways to relate to other people, because when we can relate to other people, that's when all of the hate and stuff stops. And especially right now in the world, it's a little scary how we're all fractured and trying to pick sides. You're in this camp or you're in that camp, and I don't know about over there, but in North America here, there's, transphobia and homophobia and all of these things going on with you know, the transgender community and all of that stuff. And it's annoying to me because I'm just like, I think the media blows all of that stuff up. And for me, the only way that we move forward as a society is to find ways to relate to one another, even though we have differences. And I think that's served me really well as a person with a disability. I don't bark about all the ways that my life is different than people's because it's not. You know, I poop and pee different. I have a different, you know, way of getting around, but I move through the world the exact same way. I get up in the morning, everybody still has to take a poop. Doesn't matter whether you're in a wheelchair or not, we still do that same thing. It doesn't matter whether I'm moving in a wheelchair or somebody's walking along the sidewalk. We're moving through life with the same goals, needs, and wants and all of that stuff. And I think that's just in general how it's served me to connect with people. And I think that we should do that more often because, like you say, the more you realize the things that you think are different about other people are not as different as you really think they are. They just sort of have different labels and titles and all that stuff. But the things that we want and need are all really the same.